In the spring of 1985, South Carolina's calm neighborhoods were shaken by a crime that seemed incomprehensible in its coldness. Deborah Helmick, a 22-year-old young woman, was found dead in her home, and the scene sent a ripple of fear through her family and the community. Deborah lived in a modest house on a quiet street. Her life was ordinary, unassuming. She worked part-time at a local boutique, spent weekends with friends, and was well known in her church circle. Neighbors remembered her as polite, responsible, and cautious, the type of person who locked doors despite living in a generally safe area. Yet despite her precautions, someone had entered her home with lethal intent. The medical examiner's report confirmed the cause of death: strangulation. There were defensive wounds on Deborah's arms and hands, suggesting she had fought desperately against her attacker. The crime scene was otherwise meticulously clean. No fingerprints, no footprints, no immediate DNA markers. The perpetrator had left almost nothing. Detectives arrived and began the painstaking process of documenting every detail. Photographs were taken from every angle. Items were carefully bagged and labeled. Even the smallest fibers and hairs were collected for analysis. Forensic investigators knew that while the scene seemed devoid of clues, microscopic evidence could tell a story the naked eye could not. Police immediately interviewed Deborah's family and neighbors. Everyone described her as cautious, kind, and unassuming. No one had seen or heard anything unusual in the days leading up to her death. There were no threats, no signs of enemies, no motive. The questions haunted investigators: who could do this? Why her? And how had the killer managed to enter and leave without detection? Local media picked up the story quickly. Headlines ran in the Spartanburg Herald and Columbia State, and soon neighbors began locking their doors and checking on one another. Community members were scared, confused, and searching for answers. Law enforcement understood that the first 48 hours were critical. Every detail could make the difference between identifying the killer or allowing him to vanish into anonymity. Investigators scoured Deborah's home for anything out of place. They found slight displacements in furniture, marks on the carpet suggesting a struggle, and a single, inconspicuous hair on a windowsill. Though minor, these details could hold critical significance. A team of forensic experts collected samples for analysis, working late into the night under bright lights that cut harshly across the crime scene. By the end of the first week, detectives knew they were dealing with a perpetrator who was careful, precise, and untraceable. Whoever had committed this act had planned it, executed it efficiently, and left the house almost exactly as it had been found, an invisible predator striking with chilling confidence. Larry Gene Bell was, at first glance, an ordinary man. In his early 40s, he held sporadic employment, interacted politely with neighbors, and presented the kind of calm, unremarkable demeanor that allowed him to blend seamlessly into his surroundings. To anyone who knew him casually, he appeared harmless, polite, even likable. It was the kind of face that could walk through a crowded street unnoticed, and unremarkable. But beneath this facade lurked a calculating, obsessive mind. Bell's life was marked by a careful orchestration of normalcy. He maintained acquaintances, attended church occasionally, and appeared socially compliant. Yet his inner world was dark, dominated by fantasies of control, manipulation, and violence. Investigators later described him as methodical, manipulative, and highly organized, a predator who studied his victims before acting, ensuring every move was precise. Bell's methodology was chilling in its precision. He selected victims based on opportunity, accessibility, and perceived vulnerability. He watched them, learning their routines, noting when they were alone, and understanding the environment surrounding them. Each step of his process was deliberate, a part of a carefully choreographed pattern of stalking and control. Despite his calm exterior, his behavior demonstrated escalating obsession. Prior to the murders, Bell had a history of minor offenses, burglary, trespassing, and other stealth-related crimes. While these incidents did not involve violence, they revealed a man comfortable with invading spaces that were not his own. These actions provided insight into his predatory mindset, hinting at his capacity to escalate from observation to violent action. To law enforcement, the challenge was profound. Bell left almost no conventional evidence. He interacted with neighbors, colleagues, and casual acquaintances in ways that seemed ordinary. He was invisible in plain sight, his outward normality providing him cover for the inner violence that would soon manifest. Bell's ability to blend in also made him unpredictable. His calm, measured approach gave him control over the environment, allowing him to operate under the radar while instilling fear in those closest to his victims. It was a dangerous combination, a man with ordinary appearances and extraordinary planning, capable of striking with lethal precision. This duality, ordinary on the surface, monstrous beneath, would define the investigation. Understanding Bell's psychology became critical. Behavioral profilers worked tirelessly to construct his mind, hypothesizing how he might select, approach, and ultimately harm his victims. Every minor detail of his behavior, his interactions with the community, his previous offenses, and his private obsessions, was scrutinized. In the weeks following Deborah Helmick's murder, investigators began to connect patterns. Bell's knowledge of the victim's routines, his comfort with surveillance and intrusion, and his ability to vanish without leaving evidence suggested a man both intelligent and dangerous. He was not impulsive, he was patient, waiting for the exact moment to strike, and in doing so, he transformed from neighbor to predator. For the residents of South Carolina, the invisible predator remained just that, invisible. While investigators pieced together behavioral clues and background patterns, the town moved cautiously, aware that someone capable of such precise and calculated violence could be among them, blending in unnoticed. Even within his family and friends' perception, Bell remained unremarkable. He smiled, joked, and appeared compliant with social norms. It was this deceptive normalcy that allowed him to operate undetected, making the eventual crimes all the more terrifying. The very ordinariness of his life became a weapon, masking the methodical planning and chilling intent that lay beneath. Months after Deborah Helmick's murder, the town was struck by another shock. Sherry Smith, a teenage girl, vanished without warning. Her parents reported her missing after she did not return from school. The case immediately drew intense attention. Sherry's disappearance bore hallmarks of premeditation. There were no witnesses, no forced entry, and no signs of struggle prior to her abduction. Investigators quickly realized that the same methodology used in Deborah Helmick's murder might be at play, a carefully chosen target, attacked in private, with almost no evidence left behind. Witnesses placed Bell near the vicinity at key times. Behavioral profilers began linking the two cases, noting similarities in victim type, location, and the lack of apparent motive. The pattern suggested a psychologically driven, methodical predator. Community fear intensified. Parents watched their children more closely. Neighbors questioned who among them could be the face of such calculated terror. Each day of uncertainty heightened anxiety and paranoia. Law enforcement expanded the investigation. They meticulously reviewed Bell's past, uncovering minor criminal offenses, trespassing, burglary, and other indications of stealth and observation. These incidents, though minor, revealed a pattern consistent with the predator's careful selection of victims. Forensics became the linchpin of the case. Investigators analyzed hair, fibers, and items collected from both crime scenes. They cross-referenced witness statements, phone records, and alibis. Each fragment of evidence became a piece in the larger puzzle, slowly revealing Bell's movements and methods. Bell's interactions during the investigation further exposed his psychology. He began sending letters and making phone calls that taunted authorities. In these communications, his arrogance was evident. He believed he could outsmart the police and continued to exert control from the shadows. Detectives reconstructed timelines, observed patterns, and developed a comprehensive understanding of Bell's behaviors. The seemingly invisible predator was slowly being mapped, and the noose was tightening around him. The breakthrough came after months of persistent work. Law enforcement identified patterns in Bell's communications, movements, and past offenses that converged on him as the prime suspect. Bell was arrested without incident. His demeanor was calm, composed, almost unnervingly so. During interrogation, he alternated between denial, evasion, and partial admissions. He attempted to rationalize his actions with twisted logic, claiming impulse and circumstance. The investigators, armed with forensic evidence, witness accounts, and behavioral analysis, knew otherwise. Every fiber, every footprint, every communication painted a picture of premeditated, controlled violence. Bell's methods, while clever, could not escape the scrutiny of detailed investigation. For the families of Deborah Helmick and Sherry Smith, the arrest brought a measure of relief. The invisible predator, once haunting their lives and the community, was finally contained. The trial of Larry Gene Bell was meticulously documented and closely watched. Prosecutors presented evidence in exhaustive detail. Forensic analysis, witness testimony, and letters Bell had written revealing his calculated control over the victims. Psychologists testified about Bell's compulsions, obsession, and the methodical nature of his crimes. Defense attorneys attempted to argue mental instability, but the premeditated and systematic nature of Bell's actions left little room for mitigation. The jury convicted Bell on multiple counts of murder and abduction. He received the death penalty, ensuring he could never harm another person. The case left a lasting mark on law enforcement, forensic science, and criminal profiling. It demonstrated the power of meticulous investigation, the importance of evidence preservation, and the use of behavioral analysis in apprehending a cunning predator. Families of victims found some measure of closure, and the community slowly began to heal. Yet the story of Larry Gene Bell, the invisible predator, remains a chilling testament to the dangers that can hide behind ordinary faces, in quiet neighborhoods, and in seemingly safe communities. This case continues to resonate decades later. It is a stark reminder of the necessity of vigilance, forensic precision, and behavioral analysis in uncovering hidden threats. Larry Gene Bell's ability to blend in, study, and strike illustrates the terrifying reality of predation in plain sight. Through tireless investigation, forensic science, and profiling, justice was served. The victims' lives are remembered, and the lessons of the case remain a blueprint for preventing similar tragedies. The community endured fear, loss, and uncertainty, but ultimately, the invisible predator was unmasked, proving that even the most cunning killers can be brought to justice. If you love chilling crime stories like this, make sure to like and subscribe to Dark True Crime channel.